The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
We, the jury, find as follows as to count one of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Mrs. Adelson, control yourself.
Donna Adelson has caused immense devastation and an untimely, undeserved murder through her actions. While no trial or verdict can ever heal the profound wounds caused by Dan's murder, justice must be served.
I ask the court sentence Donna Adelson to the maximum possible sentence. And my only short question to Donna, was it worth it?
Powerful victim impact statements after Donna Adelson was found guilty in the murder-for-hire plot of Dan Markel. We are on the ground in Florida with the latest reaction this morning. Plus, the parents accused of murdering their 7-month-old baby, Emmanuel, pled not guilty. What's next for Jake and Rebecca Haro? And will police ever find baby Emmanuel? Also this hour, court records reveal new details about the former sheriff who is accused of murdering a judge in his chambers. The defendant's daughter shutting down rumors of any relationship with the judge. And we are previewing Megan Boswell's sentencing. You may remember she was convicted of murdering her daughter, Evelyn. This was earlier this year. We are getting you caught up with key moments from her trial. It's all next, right here on Opening Statements. And welcome to Opening Statements, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm your host, Kelly Craft, sitting in today for Julie Grant, who is in Denver for CrimeCon. Just like in an actual trial, we are getting you ready for what's ahead in court. And right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Troopers say Jaden was allegedly last seen on Tuesday, August 5th around 9 p.m. wearing blue Sonic the Hedgehog PJs.
She talked to 911. And she said to them that my child is missing.
The remains of Jaden Spicer were discovered buried at the scene. Jaden's mother, Felicia Gross, 33, of Jackson, was taken into custody and transported to Kentucky River Regional Jail.
Jaden is now in good hands, and we're going to take care of him.
In Kentucky, Felicia Gross is back in court today for her arraignment. She is charged in the murder of her 10-year-old son, Jaden Spicer. Court begins at 11 a.m. And in Wisconsin, testimony resumes in the kiss and kill murder trial for Samantha Krebs. That starts at 9 a.m. Eastern. We are also in Tennessee. Convicted killer Megan Boswell back in court for a sentencing hearing on her other counts. She was already sentenced to life in prison for her daughter Evelyn's murder. This was back in February. Court there gets underway at 1:30 p.m. And now to our top story. Donna Adelson, found guilty of orchestrating the murder-for-hire plot of her former son-in-law, Dan Markel.
We, the jury, find as follows as to count one of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Mrs. Adelson, control yourself. Count two. We, the jury, find as follows as to count two of the indictment. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Count three. We, the jury, find as follows as to count three of the indictment. Solicitation to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. And it is signed and dated by the foreperson.
Let's bring in Court TV's Julia Janae, who has been following this high-profile case in Tallahassee, Florida. Good morning to you, Julia. Julia, quite a night last night, and you were in the courtroom for it all when that verdict came down. Tell us about the reaction inside that courtroom.
Good morning, Kelly. It is good to be with you. What an emotional, poignant, and just shocking day yesterday because of that first outburst that we heard inside of the courtroom from Donna Adelson. We watched as she was escorted out of this courtroom after she heard that guilty verdict. And I noticed even when she was inside of the courtroom waiting to hear her fate, she was already handcuffed. That's something that we didn't see during this trial. She had the freedom to move her hands while she was sitting at defense table. But when they brought her in to hear what the verdict would be, it took these jurors about 3 hours and 14 minutes yesterday to come back with that verdict. It was into the evening. They kept the court open later than it normally is. It was about 8 p.m. when we heard that. And then on the Markel side, you saw these just emotions of relief, warm embrace from all of the people there. This was a packed courtroom, and the majority of them were supporters of the Markel family plus media. So you could hear the exultation, really, and victory when they exited the courtroom. There was clapping and applause for the prosecutor. This was a day with a lot of emotion, but a surprise and shocking response from Donna Adelson, because she has kept her composure throughout this trial, which surprised many of us because she often does not keep that emotion inside. She, during the pretrial, was very emotional, but this time around, during the trial, she did not speak up. She didn't speak over her attorneys, yet when that verdict came down, that's what we saw. I mean, this was quite a day inside of the courtroom, and justice for Dan Markel a 5th time around.
Julia, did the prosecutor, I know you got an interview with her after the verdict came down, Georgia Kappelman, did she give any indication of maybe any other charges that could be brought in the murder of Dan Markel?
Kelly, I got to tell you, she did not want to answer that question. She even warned us when she came out not to ask the question about other charges, other people. 2 years ago, when I was here for Charlie Adelson's trial, that was the question, is Donna next? And she only said stay tuned back in 2023. Here's how she answered that question right after this verdict coming back guilty for Donna.
Georgia, does Wendi have reason to be worried tonight?
You said that word. That's a bad word.
A bad word.
No W questions.
Worried is a bad word. Well, last time. Should we say stay tuned? Do we need to stay tuned?
I mean, you can stay tuned.
That is the most, Kelly, that we got from Georgia Kappelman when it comes to whether or not there will be charges. I did ask her if she felt she used more evidence about Wendi in this trial. She agreed that she did and said that it was more because of who the defendant was, who Donna Adelson was, and they needed a lot of that evidence to really connect the defendant to what happened here and just how involved she was in her daughter's life, but no word on whether or not charges will come down on anyone else, including people have questions about Harvey, who was here inside of the courtroom when all this happened. He declined to say anything afterward. We did give him that opportunity, but it did look like he was in tears after he left this courtroom when his wife was convicted.
Wow. And Julia, you did get a chance to speak with Dan Markel's parents right after that verdict came down. Then they gave their victim impact statements. What did they have to say when you got a chance to talk with them later on last night?
What powerful victim impact statements we heard from the Markel family, both parents speaking, because they have to travel back to another country, to Canada, when they are done here with this trial. So last time around, they had to do their victim impact statement by Zoom. So the judge allowed them to go ahead and put their victim impact statement on the record, even though sentencing isn't for a little while. And I also want to point out something that's unique about their victim impact statements. Each time there's been a trial, they've let one family member, their family of 3, now that Danny's gone, in terms of their initial family unit. There's Phil, his father, Ruth, his mother, and Shelley, his sister. Each of them gave a single victim impact statement the first 3 trials. So it's even more heavy to think about the fact that now that they have gone through that cycle, we're on the 4th trial. So this time both parents spoke and gave a victim impact statement. Let's take a listen to what Phil Markel had to say after he exited the courtroom, and we asked about this particular trial, whether it was different.
It's hard. Each one is very gratifying, obviously, and we're happy with the results. This one hurts, I think, a little more because of who it is. I made a very short little speech, but I think what I did differently this time is the harm to families, not just only ours, but to everybody involved in this mess. And so many children without parents, without uncles, aunts, cousins, etc.
You know, he went on to say that he does not feel like there has been full justice yet. He won't be able to have full peace, though he's gratified by this verdict, until all people who are responsible for Dan Markel's death are held responsible. He didn't name any names. But you see there, while he was giving his victim impact statement, both his and Ruth's, Donna Adelson spent a lot of time shaking her head in disagreement with what they were saying about her.
Yeah, I did see that last night. Julia, thank you so much for bringing us those updates. I know you're going to stick around, be with us next hour for even more updates. Julia Janae, thank you so much. Now let's bring in our guests for this hour, criminal defense attorneys Joe Tamburino and David Bruno. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning to you both. I was up really late last night watching this verdict come in. I was texting one of the producers out there in Tallahassee saying, do you think we'll get a verdict tonight? And then that verdict came down late last night. Joe, let me start with you. What is your reaction?
Good morning. Thanks for having me on. I wasn't surprised at all. You know, being on this show a number of times before, talking about the Adelson trials, that is. I mean, there's been 4 of them, I think, now. I wasn't surprised at all. And the bottom line comes to this with Donna Adelson's case. Yes, it was a circumstantial evidence case, but you can get convictions on circumstantial evidence, and that evidence can just have as great a weight as direct evidence. So I wasn't surprised. The evidence was overwhelming against her. I think the prosecution did a very good job, especially in closing arguments, but I think they did a very good job laying the whole case out. So I think this was very expected.
David, let's hear what you have to say about this. What did you think of the verdict last night?
Yeah, 2 points on this. You know, I have to think about that decision not to testify, because when she came out and she was undecided about that, it was so close that they needed more time. And with that outburst immediately after that murder verdict, I just wonder, you know, what second guessing is going to happen in the mind of Donna about not going on the stand. Because we often talk about trials being the source of credibility. And there were some things that really had to be explained, including the one-way ticket to Vietnam with a country that did not have extradition. And the attorneys step up there and basically tried to make an argument, don't think what it is. It's like that was just trying to get away for peace, right? And I think that there's a number of arguments that were made that really needed explanation, and the arguments being made were not very credible. And I just wonder if the jury needed more from Donna, but whatever the case may be, they convicted it quick, and that was stern, and we saw her reactions. And I think right now in that camp, there's probably a lot of second guessing about strategy.
Yeah, she possibly is thinking she should have testified. Joe, coming up with her sentencing, that will take place in October. She would have the opportunity to make a statement if she chose to do so. Do you think we will hear from her in sentencing?
No, I doubt we'll hear from her in sentencing. And the bottom line with that is because she didn't testify. You know, I agree with David. I think there is going to be a lot of second guessing. I mean, let's face it, there really is only 2 reasons why a defendant doesn't testify. One is their case went in so well, it's unnecessary. I mean, it's really unnecessary because there's reasonable doubt everywhere. The defense was able to raise it. The prosecution couldn't get the case over the goal line. So that's one reason. The second reason is because if you do, you don't know what you're going to say. You can't explain certain things. You're going to come out worse. And I think that might have been the calculation here because, you know, that one-way ticket to Vietnam, how are you going to explain that? She didn't do a one-way ticket to, say, Mexico, where no big deal. You're in Mexico. You could easily get back into the United States, one-way ticket or not. She did a one-way ticket to a country that didn't have extradition at a very critical time in this whole process of all the prosecutions of all the players in this case. So I think it was the latter. She couldn't testify. She probably thought if I did that, it was make it worse because I can't explain what I did.
Yeah, probably. That Vietnam trip, I really think, is the one that really did her in. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We are going to squeeze in a quick break, but coming up next on Opening Statements.
My question is where's Emmanuel? I want to know where Emmanuel's at. Whatever the situation is, I just want justice to be brought.
Parents of baby Emmanuel Haro pled not guilty in his murder. Will we ever find the missing 7-month-old? Plus, new developments in the shooting death of Judge Kevin Mullins. The family of defendant Mickey Steins denying rumors of any relationship between the daughter and the judge.
The Court TV podcast will return.
We have received a copy of that felony complaint. Stipulate Mr. Haro has been advised of his legal and constitutional rights, waive formal reading and advisement, enter the not guilty pleas, denounce where appropriate.
Receipt of the complaint in this matter stipulate that her name and date of birth are set forth correctly, and that she has been advised of her legal and constitutional rights. I would ask that not guilty pleas be entered as to both counts in this matter.
The parents of baby Emmanuel Haro faced a judge on Thursday, charged with the murder of their missing 7-month-old son. They pled not guilty to those charges. Jake and Rebecca Haro are accused of killing Emmanuel and filing a false police report in connection to the infant's disappearance. After pleading not guilty, the couple is going to be behind bars with bail set at $1 million. Here are some upcoming key dates for Jake and Rebecca Haro. Felony Settlement Conference. That's going to take place pretty soon. September 16th is the date for that. The preliminary hearing will be September 17th, and then the pretrial hearing is going to be September 18th. So important dates coming up in that case. Baby Emmanuel has been missing since August 14th. The location of his remains, they're still unknown. He is presumed dead by investigators, something the district attorney talked to the media about after Jake and Rebecca Haro were arrested.
Do you believe you know how baby Emmanuel died or was killed, and is there anything you can share?
The filing in this case reflects our belief that baby Emmanuel was abused, a victim of child abuse over time, and that eventually, because of that abuse, he succumbed to those injuries.
Now that we know that Jake and Rebecca Haro are pleading not guilty, what's a possible defense for the accused parents? Why don't we go ahead and bring in our guests for this hour. Criminal defense attorneys Joe Tamburino and David Bruno are still with us, and also joining the program, private investigator Manuel Gomez. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Manuel, I'm going to start with you. We have been wondering where baby Emmanuel is. The parents are not providing any sort of information. How do you take a look at a case like this?
Well, due to the fact that Jake Haro has been lying to the police, he's already told them that his son is dead, and that's why he was seen at another location looking for the body off the highway. He's been misleading the police. So due to the fact that we're dealing with a chronic liar, all right, what we need to do is go back to the digital footprint of the mother and father, and that's going to give us the possible leads of where this baby was taken. Also remember, before she made this complaint, she was at a location where they were doing it at a construction site, which is ideal because there was cement there, cement ditches being dug, and she could have dropped off the body there. But again, that digital footprint is going to give them where the locations that baby could possibly be buried. The fact that they both pleaded not guilty is insane because, again, Jake Haro told the police his son is dead and took them to a location to where the body possibly could be. The circumstantial evidence in this case is overwhelming.
David Bruno, let me bring you in on this. That they did plead not guilty. What's a possible defense? What is the strategy behind that?
No surprise on the plea from me, at least. That's the constitutional right every defendant has. They're presumed innocent. But here's my mindset from a prosecutor standpoint. Which one's going to give the information? You know, it looks like the dad had a very serious prior abuse conviction with another child, infant, that left her permanently damaged and bedridden. So he's got a propensity. So he is probably the #1 suspect target in the most of the conduct. So I just wonder how long it's going to be for mom to come forward with her lawyer with information that could be helpful. Assuming the facts are that dad was more culpable, the prosecutors will probably be looking for either of the two with less culpability to provide information about the location of the body, as well as information as to the cause and manner of death for the murder prosecution of the other. So I think that's what prosecutors are thinking about right now, given the fact that they don't have the body.
Joe, what's your take on this? They pled not guilty.
Yeah, I'm going to go, well, first of all, the not guilty, David's right. I mean, it's a constitutional right. There could be a video of you robbing the bank and you could go into court the next morning and say not guilty. It's basically just a legal maneuver. However, I'm going to go a little bit further with what David was talking about. I think, I can't guarantee this, but based on all my experience, I think the prosecution is likely reaching out to Rebecca's attorneys to see if she would turn on Jake. I just don't have a doubt about that. Why wouldn't you? When you're a prosecutor, what you try to do is get the most culpable guy. Yes, you want to convict everyone who's part of the whole conspiracy, everyone who has dirty hands, but you have to triage. You have to say, I want the guy who's the most guilty to go away for the longest period of time. And it appears in this case, just based on what we know, that would be Jake, because he's got the prior conduct and everything. So I would think the prosecutors are going to Rebecca's attorney saying, look, let's make a deal. She provides the information. She testifies against Jake. She gives us the possible locations of where poor Emmanuel was buried, and we cut her a deal.
Now, after the arrest of Jake and Rebecca Haro, District Attorney Michael Hestron, he had this to say about the decision to release Jake from custody. This was prior to the disappearance of Emmanuel. Why don't we go ahead and listen to that?
In this case, a judge here in Riverside County, happened to have been a visiting judge from San Bernardino County, gave Mr. Haro a suspended sentence, which means, if I can translate for you what that is, it means that instead of sending him to prison, he chose to give him probation. I will say that it was an outrageous error in judgment by this judge. And I don't have any problem saying that. I'm not attacking the judge personally. That decision was absolutely outrageous. Mr. Haro should have been in prison at the time that this crime happened. And if that judge had done his job as he should have done, Emmanuel would be alive today.
Court TV has reached out to the district attorney's office since that news conference. The office has not been commenting on the matter at this time. I can see why they're not really commenting, gentlemen, but why don't we talk about this, Manuel? I'll go to you. Are we any closer to locating baby Emmanuel, or do you think we're just too far removed from any possible developments on that front?
I don't think we're closer to locating baby Emmanuel until, like my colleagues just said, until that mother caves in and goes against the father. But she's not going to, because I believe she's suffering from some form of Stockholm syndrome, because she's protecting her abuser. Clearly, she's a mother of domestic violence, and she's doing everything humanly possible to protect her husband, knowing that her child is dead, okay? But again, like my colleague said, they're going to continue to press her. She's the weakest link, but we don't have any other new leads. And this is why that digital footprint of their telephone locations is important to find this baby, because that father has a propensity to lie and will lie and misdirect the police, as he has done so far.
David, we just played that soundbite before, some strong words on the front when this case first broke. What's your reaction to that and letting somebody out?
We're talking about a 2018 child abuse case with another victim who was 10 weeks old at the time of the allegation. And that particular victim has lifelong permanent injuries and is bedridden. He did not get prison whatsoever. And I have to join in the questions about that particular sentence, because if he was treated and he was sentenced to jail, he would not have been around to do this. And also, Child Protective Services has been in this family's life, including with this particular baby. So questions have to be also as to how that was handled and why more wasn't done by Child Protective Services.
Yeah, absolutely. David, thanks so much for that feedback. David and Joe are going to stick around. Manuel Gomez, thank you so much for joining us this hour. Have a great Friday. Thank you for being with us. And still to come on opening statements.
Maybe we're almost to the jail. I'll ask one last time. Is there anything you want? Just anything to do with your family?
We are spotlighting the case against former Sheriff Steins. His family denying any relationship rumors with the judge, and the very best of baby Evelyn's trial as we look ahead to the convicted killer, Megan Boswell's sentencing.
Megan Boswell got rid of Evelyn so that Megan could be Megan.
It's not fair to say she murdered her child because she didn't grieve right. I resent it.
Stop doing that. Stop. Can you edit that?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
This morning, the spotlight is on former Kentucky Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins, who was accused of murdering a judge, and new grand jury testimony. Judge Kevin Mullins was gunned down in his office almost 1 year ago. At the time, there were rumors that this had something to do with Steins' daughter. A detective has now revealed that Mullins did not have any sort of relationship with Steins' daughter, including phone calls and text messages. Here's what the same detective said about it last year.
You intended to obtain records for her cell phone number?
Possibly, yes.
Do you believe that will be soon that you'll do that?
Could be, yes.
Had you already intended to do that, or did you just respond to my question?
Well, the call should be on the judge's records, too.
Well, I understand.
And she's made statements about what occurred during those conversations.
The former sheriff's mental health is also at the center of this case. Some claiming he was in a state of psychosis following the shooting and that he has no memory of that incident. Why don't we go ahead and talk about it this morning? Criminal defense attorney David Bruno is still with us this morning, as well as board-certified forensic psychiatrist Dr. Carol Lieberman. Dr. Lieberman, thank you for joining the program. The Commonwealth is fighting the defense motion to unseal his first mental exam, and instead of asking for a second evaluation, that's what they want to do here. Carol, can you kind of talk about that? What are your thoughts on this in general?
Well, I think that this is one of the best cases for not guilty by reason of insanity that I've seen, because first of all, we have witnesses that show that observed the sheriff and said that he was, in various states of not his usual mental health. And then after the killing, well, I watched a video that was over 2 hours of the sheriff after he was arrested. And it was clear, from the beginning that he really was in a psychotic state. He seemed to be responding to auditory or visual hallucinations. He was paranoid. He thought they were going to kill him. He was very psychotic. So, and in order to prove that, they have to prove that by mental disease or defect, he was unable to appreciate the wrongfulness of his act, the wrongfulness of the killing. And so I think that they have it, and the state is concerned that the psychiatric exam, apparently showed that he was psychotic, or the details haven't been released, but that they want to have their own psychiatrist examine him because they don't like what they understand is the results of the first exam.
David, let's bring you in on this. So the defense talking about an insanity defense. What do you think about that approach based on what Dr. Lieberman just was talking about?
Sure, the crime's on video. I don't see any other defense other than this for this particular defendant. That's number one. Number two, the reports are certainly that there's indicia of psychosis either before, during, or after, which the defense is going to explore with their expert. And so once the defendant is examined by that forensic psychiatrist, that is now the state's obligation because they get their own expert and they are entitled to another examination of the defendant. And it's really going to be a battle of the experts, if you want to call it that. But the state, I mean, they shouldn't be on one side or the other. They should be following the facts as they are to determine, because if there is psychosis, if he was insane and the state goes and gets an expert to agree with that, then we should not be seeing a jury trial on this particular issue. And it could be a meeting of the minds with a plea that is in the best interest of everyone, given the expert opinions.
Why don't we go ahead and play some video of Stein's? This was right after the arrest.
I can't sit like this. I can't. Come on now. Be fair to me.
We're being good to you, brother. You get to stick your leg up in there.
Come on now, guys. Please don't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. Please.
You want to scoot on over a little bit to the left?
Come on now.
Try to scoot on over a little bit more. That way we don't hit you. Can you go any bit farther? I just want to hit you with the door. Put your knee in there, my friend.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Bates. Hey, Bates. Can we loosen this up a little or give the window down?
I'm sorry?
Can we loosen this up a little? Be fair to me, man.
Dr. Lieberman, what does that video tell you?
Well, it's part of his being concerned that they want to kill him. Now, they were as nice to him, you know, because they had worked with him for years and all that. They really were trying to be kind to him. But no matter what they said, he was sure that they were going to kill him. And that, I think, had partly to do with the deposition that he went to, that he testified at some days before, about a case where they were saying, where a woman brought a case saying that she had been sexually molested by one of his deputies. And so it was all, that's kind of where a lot of this percolated, you know, when he, from this deposition, where he thought that people would be angry at him if he revealed some of the things that he knew about that were going on, you know, in the judge's chamber, or he was afraid that they were going to want to kill him for telling the truth. So, but this isn't even the worst part. I mean, earlier, he wouldn't go into one of the rooms in the station, because he was sure that they were going to kill him if they brought him into that room. He kept asking about, do you have your body camera on? You know, make sure you have it on, because he wanted to have evidence that they were killing him or planned to kill him.
David, you know, the Commonwealth is requesting a change of venue, and the defense is fighting that. Talk about how unusual that is for prosecutors to ask for a change of venue. We usually see defense counsel making that motion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, prosecutors, they like being in their home courthouse, for sure. That's where the resources are. That's where the witnesses are. Typically, it's an advantage to be at their home courthouse for prosecutors when defense attorneys have to bring in all the boxes and they don't have their own offices and things like that. But this is a very different case. And what the doctor is talking about right now is also this other sort of reporting going on about the victim in the case, the judge, and civil complaints about sexual abuse going on within the judicial system, and the request for sexual favors to carry benefit on particular cases. Now, I don't know if that's going to be proven. There's also the reporting that potentially there was a relationship with the defendant's daughter, which we reported initially that's not bearing out, but that's not necessarily what the defendant thought in his mind. And if he thought those things, and that's part of the psychosis, that will be another layer to the analysis by the forensic psychiatrist. Ultimately, that's going to take place here.
That's a really good point, David. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, David, you're going to stick around. Dr. Lieberman, thank you so much for being with us. Enjoy your weekend. Appreciate your insight, as always. Up next on Opening Statements.
Evelyn,
Hi. My mom took her to a campground in a silver camper, and if they don't go tonight, I'm going to go find her myself.
Megan concocted a story. She told all kinds of different stories, depending on the person that she was talking to.
It doesn't mean she's a murderer.
I just want her back. That's all I want.
We look ahead to Megan Boswell's sentencing. Will we hear from the convicted killer?
This is the Court TV podcast.
The judgment of this court, you are guilty. In count 2, a jury of your peers having found you guilty of first-degree murder and the perpetration of a felony, it's a judgment of this court, you are guilty.
Now for what's tipping the scales in the case of Megan Boswell. She is the Tennessee mom who reported her baby Evelyn, missing, only for the baby to be found dead inside a trash can. Today, Boswell finds out her sentence for the remaining 17 counts that she faces after being convicted back in February. Let's take a look at how we got here.
Evelyn. Hi.
From early December of 2019 until later when her body was found, Evelyn was always in the same place. And Megan Boswell knew that. Megan Boswell knew that because she is the one that put Evelyn there. She placed Evelyn's body in a kitchen trash can.
Did she lie to the police? She absolutely lied to the police. Not contesting that. It doesn't mean she murdered her child. It doesn't mean she killed her child. What it means is that's her perception that she's going to get in trouble.
Let's get into the last time you saw her. Tell me what that time was like and when that was.
Well, actually, I want to talk about that. I've told TBI where to find her in Mendota. My mom took her to a campground in a silver camper, and if they don't go tonight, I'm going to go find her myself. Because I've told them, and they're not really, taking it seriously, and if they don't go tonight, I will go myself and go get her.
Tell them why they're not.
Don't get into that. Stop.
No, you need to defend yourself.
That's all they need to know. Quit.
They already know, Megan.
So, I'm going to go back into...
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Can you edit that?
I said, come high hell water. I said, I'm going to get on the phone. I said, I'm going to find my granddaughter. I said, I don't care what I got to do. I said, I want to know what's going on. I said, enough's enough.
You're telling me all these other stories that you told. All those before, those are lies. This is the truth.
This is the God's honest truth.
Okay, that timeline, all the dates that you gave, all that stuff prior, all that stuff was made up. And why do you want to come clean now? What benefit do you have?
I don't, but you talk to me. To be honest with you.
Is it for me or is it for your baby?
For my baby, but you're the one who were like, hey, it's been going on long enough, you know what I'm saying?
It's time to put an end to it.
A jury of your peers having found you guilty of first-degree murder and the perpetration of a felony, it's a judgment of this court, you are guilty.
So what can we expect today? Will we hear from Boswell? Here to discuss, criminal defense attorneys Joe Tamburino and David Bruno. Gentlemen, thanks so much for sticking around with us this morning. Now, to be clear, the sentencing today is not for the murder counts, but the other 17 counts that she was charged with. So why don't we talk about the goal for her defense at this point? Joe, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I think the goal for her defense is their motion for a new trial. I think they're going to be denied that motion, and then they're going to bring it up on appeal. Another goal of the defense could be not to have these the 17 charges be consecutive on what she was already convicted of, which is the murder. So those are the two things I think the defense is going to be looking at. Trying to see if they can win their motion for a new trial. I don't think that's going to happen, and then they'll do an appeal. And second, not to have a consecutive sentence.
David, do you think we will hear from Boswell at all?
You know, I think so, personally. This is a difficult case. I mean, more and more we're watching these cases of child abuse and these young victims. And I think certainly if she wants to kind of spare what she can, that would be something to do. The concurrent consecutive sentence on the life with parole is critical. because right now she would have to do 51 years because that's what the jury recommended with parole, and she would be eligible at least at 69. That's assuming everything goes concurrent. But if it's consecutive, then that will be stacked on top, on top, on top, and then it'd be basically securing her fate in prison with no chance of getting out.
Let's go ahead and play a little bit of what Megan had to say during her police interview. Let's play that.
We went to go out to eat, and then my mom came and got her. She was wearing a little hot pink tracksuit with a matching bow and little matching shoes. I was trying to protect my mom, maybe in hopes, oh, well, she'd just tell them where Evelyn was, but obviously she's not going to. She's very sweet. She loves everybody. She's never been mean ever, which I'm very thankful for. She's just a really good-hearted baby in general.
You believe you know who has her. What do you have to say to them?
Just bring her back. I just want her back. That's all I want.
And Joe, that was actually an interview that she did with a local television station there, but it did come out. We were there for this trial. It did come out, and they played that during the trial. We heard her there, and we've seen this time and time again throughout the years. Women come forward, men come forward, and they tell a story, and then they go to trial, and we find out that story was not exactly true.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, all you have to do is just rewind the tape, hit play, and it's the same thing over and over again. The baby's missing. They go on a search for it. The mother, or whoever the alleged perpetrator is, gives a story, maybe gives a couple of interviews, and the next thing you know that there's all this overwhelming circumstantial evidence and sometimes direct evidence of the murder. You know, I always thought in this case that it should have been pled out. Whenever you have a case where a mother kills her own child, of course, as a prosecutor, you're going to want to get the most time. However, you should also try to see if you could work it out. Why do you want to do that? Because you don't want to go through a whole trial. This person is very young. A lot of these cases, the mothers are less than 30 years of age, and there's usually some other concomitant issues going on basically at the same time. So you try to work it out. I don't know why this one wasn't worked out, but I would imagine the defense tried to. I would have if I was her attorney. But, you know, clearly right now, I think the judge is going to do a consecutive sentence, and I think she's going to spend the rest of her life in prison.
And David, during the last trial, we heard some emotional victim impact statements. Megan's mother spoke, very emotional. Do you think we'll hear any further statements today?
Oh, yeah, you're going to hear plenty from the state side, for sure. I mean, the victim impact statements we saw in the Adelson case with the parents of Dan. We're going to see it from other interested parties that the prosecutor brings forth to present victim impact as part of the sentencing, which is the prosecutor's right as well.
David, thanks so much for being with us. Have a great weekend. I know you're leaving us. Joe is sticking around, joining us for Court TV Live. And that's it for Opening Statements.
That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.